Kadosh Bokatom Masechet Yevamot Daf 65A1. If you remember, we just mentioned, finish off yesterday by saying that there's going to be a machloket between Rav and Rashbag all throughout Shas, which means whether Chazakah is 2 times or 3 times. We said it had to do with Brit Milah, it had to do with the Isha Katlanit, it had to do with Vestot, it had to do with Shora Muad, with Malkiyot, it had to do with everything. So we went and we explained and we said, Nisuinu Malkiyot. We went and we said that to do with Nisuinu Malkiyot, we pass like Rabbi. To do with Vestot and Shora Muad, we pass like Rashbag. Nisuin is what we just mentioned. That's what we just said. We pass like Rabbi that after 2 marriages, Kaddish, that's it. You understand? That means after twice that a woman comes and she gets married and she doesn't have children, she cannot get married again. The same thing with the Isha Katlanit. To do with Malkiyot, what was the case of Malkiyot? A person that got Malkut because they were Veron Karet, which means that they did an Avera, which is Chayav and Karet, and they got lashes once and then twice. And therefore, the 3rd time, Betin Kam are going to put him into the kippah, which means they're going to put him into jail. They're going to give him barley until his stomach just explodes. Yeah, that's what they do after twice. Next, Vestot, to do with Vestot. What does it mean, Vestot? When a woman has a fixed period. There's many differences between a woman that has a fixed period and a not fixed period. When does she suspect? When does she not suspect? So it says over here, Ditzram, but we learned in the Mishnah, En Aisha, this is Samechei Amud Aleph on the top. We're just doing a quick chazara. Kova laveset ad shetikenu 3 pamim ve'mitaheret laveset ad shetakem min 3 pamim. For her to make a consecutive cycle, she needs 3 consecutive times. Chazakah, 3, not 2. And also to uproot the cycle, you have to uproot it 3 times, which means that it came 3 times a date and she did not see. So just like to be kova'at, you need 3. To be okeret, you also need 3. Shora muad also, the Tram was learned in the Mishnah, en ashor naaseh muad, shehidu bo 3 pamim. It's not going to become a shor muad until then it's a shor tam, right? And now it's becoming a shor muad until you're going to testify 3 different times. 2 dots. And this is where we left off yesterday. Tanu Rabbanan. We learned in a Braita, Niset Larishon velo ayu labanim. She got married to the first husband and she didn't have any children. Okay? Lasheni velo ayu labanim. It's the second husband. She doesn't have any children. Lashelishi lo tinaseh. Don't get married to the 3rd husband. Yeah, that's very important. Don't get married to the 3rd husband. Ela lami sheyesh lo banim. Only to a man that already has children. Right? But what happens if she gets married to a husband that does not have any children? She has to go out and she doesn't get a ketubah. Yeah, he doesn't have to pay her the ketubah. Right now, it says over here, it's an obligation for her to get divorced immediately. That's what Tosafot says. And he has to get married to another woman that he could do the pirya v'rivya. So now the Gemara is going to ask, Niset la shlishi lo yayu lo banim, ma'ul delitbeu hanach kamai. Says 1 second. Right now, what happens if she did get married to the 3rd husband and he did not have children? What's the deen to do with the previous husbands asking for the money back? Can she ask for the money back or not? One more time. She got married to the first husband. She didn't have children.
10 years.
10 years. He had to give her a ketubah when he divorces her, correct? Okay, very good. Chazak Baruch. Second husband. Yeah, again, same thing. He has to give her the ketubah. He gives her the ketubah. Comes a 3rd husband. Again, she got married to the 3rd husband. Well, she wasn't supposed to, but she did. And now, right, the question is, again, they don't have children. Does the first 2 husbands have the right to ask for the money of the ketubah back? Can he come and tell her? Can he say, listen, it was your fault from the beginning, you see? He could throw it on her from the beginning because now it's already 3 husbands and 10 years each one. So he could tell her, listen, so give me back the money of the ketubah. Or Dilma, or maybe Matzi Tamra Lehu, she could tell him, no. At the beginning, it was your fault. Why was it your fault? Because at the beginning, I was able to have children. It was you that you couldn't have children, right? But now, after 20-something years, because now I'm married to the 3rd husband, so after 30 years after, obviously I can't have children. Even after the 20 years, it's different. Something's different. So says the Gemara, Mistabra Matzit amra lehu hashtahu dekachshi. It's logical to say that she could answer him. Now I became like this, and therefore since she can answer, he can't get back the money, the ketubah. She stays with the money in the ketubah. Yeah. Ibailehu. So now we're going to ask another question now. Yeah. Niset larevi. Why don't she go married to the fourth husband? Yeah, she got married to the fourth husband. Yeah. No, he had family נכנסה להיריון. No, she never got married. She never had children. Yeah, 43. Yeah. What? Let's see. What happens? Yeah. Ibailehu, listen to the question. Ibailehu. Niset larevi. By the way, you should know she's not super rich. Remember that the ketubah, unless he came and he wrote $1 million on the ketubah was the amount of money to live for 1 year. Remember that she got divorced. Okay, so let's say even if she did get married right away, so fine. So she has, let's say, 3 years of parnasa. It's not. I don't know what. How much do they have in front of them? Doesn't matter, but she has a year for each other.
Business, Rabbi. She goes through herself in the middle over there.
1 million. I haven't seen a ketubah of $1 million. I apologize.
I don't know where you live.
I don't know. The ketubot that I'm writing nowadays, so a lot of the chatanim, even until today, they're still $18,000. Even if no, it's not in yeshivot. I didn't marry off the going to yeshiva. 18, 26, 52. I was in the other question. Imagine right now, she got married to the fourth husband. So again, she's 43. She got married to the fourth husband. Vayula banim. And now she does have children. Can she now ask for the ketubah of the third husband? Remember, the first 2 husbands paid her anyway, that for sure. But now the third one, he didn't pay her. Now she gets married to the fourth husband, and all of a sudden she has children. So now can she come and say, pay up? Right? This is a proof. It's you, not me. I had children. It's your problem, not my problem. So can she ask for it? Amrina la, we answer her, shetikutech yafen miduburech. This I like to tell people also, Balabati, right? It says, you know what? It's better sometimes you keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth quiet. It says, why? It's better your shtika than why? Dematzi amala, because when she's going to ask for the ketubah, he could tell her, Ana daita dehachi lo gidashtich. What? You had children? So if you had children, I didn't want to divorce you. Now, if I didn't want to divorce you, and I was only forced to divorce you because you didn't have children after 10 years, now it comes out that the get was batel, and then the marriage to the fourth husband wasn't a good marriage, and then her children are mamzerim. So therefore we come and we tell her, you know what? Zip up, it's just better just to... Doesn't matter, but he annuls the get. Why? Of course. And one more time, why did he give the get? No, in a normal case, no. Right? Let's say, for example, you have a couple that no. One more time. If you have a case of a couple, they're fighting. All of a sudden, he gives her a get. Right? A year later, she becomes a tzaddiket. Yeah? And all of a sudden, mamash, matok midvash. Yeah? He cannot come and say that anymore. But to do with this case, he was forced to give the get. It wasn't that he got, after 10 years, Betin come and they say, listen, slicha adoni, you need to have children. There's a mitzvah in the Torah, you have to procreate. So we come and we force him to give a get. Now, he has no choice in the matter. Again, nowadays, I already told you, nowadays, the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah comes and he says, we do not force on these takanot anymore. Whether it's because they have to be in Eretz Yisrael, even if it's in Eretz Yisrael, nowadays on the Zivukim, we don't force, so on and so forth. Okay, fine. Nowadays, in the olden days, we would force him. Take him to Bedin, out. Yeah, you have to get rid of her. Not only that, you have to pay her ketubah. Now the guy, he was happy. No, you have to give. So now the guy comes and he says, one second. She had children. If she had children, I never divorced her. I didn't want to get divorced. If she was on the fourth one. You're right. But therefore, the third husband could come and say, I only divorced her because you told me that she can't have children. Because what happened? Because there was 3 husbands and 10 years each one, and therefore there was nothing. But if she had children now in the 4th time, I mean, she could have had children. So maybe I could have could have continued with her.
Because that means he's the problem.
One more time. No. 1 minute. So therefore, maybe right now he could come and say, I never divorced her because of it. Maybe we could have had children. So now he could annul the get. If he could annul the get, now what happens, right? He comes and he says, if he's gonna, now what happens? She has, the get is batel. She's not married to the fourth husband. The children are mamzerim. So therefore we come and we tell her, listen, Mrs. So-and-so, keep quiet. It's better you keep quiet.
But the first and second husband is the same thing.
So says Gemara, Matkifla Rav Papa. Rav Papa comes now and he asks another question. Remember, what did we just say? We just say that she comes and she didn't get a ketubah from the third husband. Why didn't she get a ketubah from the third husband? Because he's going to say it's your problem, not my problem. Correct or not? One more time. He's saying it's your problem, not my problem, and therefore I don't have to give you a ketubah. She gets married to the fourth husband, and all of a sudden she has children. So now she comes back to him and she says, it's your problem, not my problem. So he says, one second. If it was only my problem, not your problem, I didn't want to divorce you. So if I didn't want to divorce you, so that means the get was batel. Because I only gave it because it was what? It was your problem, not my problem. But now you're telling me it's my problem, not your problem. If it's my problem, not your, I don't want to give you the get. If I didn't want to give you the get. One second. If I didn't want to give you the get, so for what happens? The get is batel. Get is batel, but I'm ask the Gemara, not like what you wanted to ask, but listen carefully. Ask the Gemara, Matkifla Rav Papa. Rav Papa asks, Ihi shatka, ana mishatkina. One second. Okay, what did we just tell her? We just told her, you know, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything, because if you say something, you're going to put your foot in it even worse. 1 second. But if she doesn't say anything, we're not going to say anything. Anyway, then the children. It doesn't matter whether she keeps quiet or not. Automatically, if she has a child, we're going to say 1 second. We scratch our heads. So she wasn't the problem. He was the problem. If she wasn't the problem and he's the problem, so therefore the get was bad. In the first case, and 1 second, in the first case, we say he was the problem. Why? Because we don't have a chazakah for her. We have a chazakah for him that after 10 years, if he still can have children, it's a problem in him. He gets divorced, right? And he has to pay the ketubah. Why does he have to pay the ketubah? Because she could still have children. That's our suspicion. The second husband, the same thing. The third husband, 3 strikes, you're out. No. It's not your problem anymore. It's the woman. So now, why doesn't the first husband come and ask the money back? Maybe she was healthy and only now she became bad. Okay, that's what we just answered. But now 1 second, right? By the way, I just answered your questions. I hope that you're paying attention. Well, one more time. But now what happens is, right, is, exactly, yeah? Yeah, no, but it's also, yeah, he says like this. He says, now 1 second. When it comes to the third husband, now there's a little bit of a difference. What's the difference between the third husband and the first 2 husbands? The first 2 husbands, we were saying was a problem in him.
Why?
So because we just said, if a woman comes and after 10 years she doesn't have children, we're going to say it's a problem in him, not in her. Why? She could probably have children with other husbands, and that's why she's allowed to get married. Not probably, for sure, and that's why we're telling her go with another man, right? We're allowing her. Why are we allowing her to go with another man? Because of the internet. Now, why do we allow him to go with another woman? Because anyway, a woman is not chayevet on pidya b'rivya. So if she's not chayevet, she doesn't have to get married. She could get married to an 80-year-old. There's no problem. There's a problem of lust that it says in the Gemara that as zaken she don't get married to a yalda. Yeah, exactly. The new for the. But what happens though is that the problem though is that when for him we say it's a problem in him. If it's a problem in him, he has to pay the ketubah. If we said from the beginning that it was also a problem in her, he doesn't have to pay the ketubah because it's a problem in her. No, the beginning, the first 2, he says it's a problem in him. He has to pay the ketubah. Comes the third husband, and now he says it's a problem in her, not in him. Now it's a problem in her. He doesn't have to pay the ketubah. Says the Gemara, she gets married to the fourth one. She has a child. 1 second, she has a child. It wasn't a problem in her. So now she comes back to the third husband and she says, pay the ketubah. It wasn't a problem in me. It's a problem in you. So he says, one second. If it was a problem in me, so then I didn't give you the ketubah al datze. I gave you the ketubah, not the ketubah, sorry, the get. I gave you the get al dat that you were the problem, right? If I would have given you the get that I was the problem, then you're right. Then everything was okay. But when I gave you the get, it wasn't like the first 2 husbands. I gave you the get because the problem was in you, and that's why I didn't even have to pay the ketubah. But that means the get is batel because the get was a null from the beginning. It wasn't a good get, right? So if the get is not a good get, the children are mamzerim. Because again, he's giving
you a problem.
No, it could be that he's not the problem anymore.
But
what? No. Sorry.
Problem.
Not because he's the problem, but that is the problem. One more time. When he's giving her the get, right? The first time around, who's the problem? He's the problem. Second time, he's the problem. Third time, she's the problem. Even though he could also be the problem. Even though he could also be the problem, but she's the problem. When she's the problem, right? Again, he could also be, I repeat that again, he could also be the problem, but she's the problem. When she's the problem, he doesn't have to pay the ketubah. So now when he gives a get, what right now is going on in his mind? Why is he giving the get? Because she's the problem. Again, one more time, he could also be the problem, but that's not why he's giving the get. He's giving the get not on condition, but that's the motive in his mind. Meaning, not in his mind. That's what we're also asking. So the get could be batel in such a case. One more time. By the way, you should know, it's very important. It's very important to know that when we learn Gittin, we will actually learn that this is very important, because when a husband gives a get, he has to know certain conditions. And we have to be very careful in what's going on, because sometimes we have to actually tell him, for example, let's say we're going to come and we're going to force him to divorce her because we went and we thought that she committed infidelity. You understand? Whatever it is, adultery. All of a sudden, she didn't do it. So he would have said, what are you talking about? If I would have known, I wouldn't have done it. So we have to be very careful, right? No, but we have to be very careful. So therefore, what we have to do is we have to make sure that he knows that. Now, in this case, there's nothing to change. In this case, he comes and he gets divorced. Why is he getting divorced? She's the problem. They force him. And she's the problem. And she's the problem. So now, 1 second. If she wasn't the problem, he comes and he says, what's going on here? I didn't want to give the get. If I didn't want to give the get, the children are mamzerim. The Gamarnu. Ask the Gemara, what do I care what she's saying? Even if she doesn't say anything to him about the ketubah, why don't we say
Rabbi,
it? We, as the rabbis, we should have said it. Rashi, right here it says, if the third husband could come and say that he's annulling it because it was a mistake, whether he does it or doesn't say it, it's a problem. Meaning, if there was a mistake done, the mistake is a mistake, whether you actually brought it to attention or not. Right? Haget batel mishum shaya ta'ut. ומכיוון שהם מבטלים את הגירושין, הדבר ברור שמה שדיבר כעת שהיא בת בנים, אין מה הטעם לבטל את הגירושין. הטעם לכך הוא שמניחים שכאשר בעלה השלישית גירש אותה, הוא ידע שייתכן שבעתיד יתברר שהיא בת בנים. וגמר בדעתו לגרש אותה בכל אופן. נמצא הגירושין לא היה בטעות. No, because that means we're saying that was wrong. Because that's what we're saying. We're saying no, that he's actually trying to get divorced in such a case. Fine.
What do you see there, Jackie?
Says the Gemara. So says the Gemara, El Amrinan Hashta with the Braita. Says the Gemara, no, you know why we're not going to say anything? Because we could answer that really Be'emet only now did she become, right, healthy. So therefore, since only now she became healthy, you can't come and say that during the third husband he divorced. No, now she became healthy. Maybe all of a sudden she started a certain diet and she went to certain doctors and all of a sudden, and now she becomes healthy. So says the Gemara, Hu Amar, if he comes and he says, Hu Amar, that it was because of Mina, the Amra Mine. So who's going to be Neman? Which means like this. Imagine right now, right, he comes and the Gemara is saying, what happens if he comes and he says it's because of her that she's sterile? And then she comes and he says it's because of him that he's sterile. Who's believed? Now again, remember, nowadays you have tests, you have this. It's not that simple, you understand? But in the olden days, you couldn't really tell. It was very difficult. How do you know who's the problem? So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yami, says Rabbi Yami, Devarim shebeno levena hi ne'emenet. The things to do with him and her, she's believed and she gets her ketubah. The Tamamai, why? He kaima la biyorek kechetz, because she knows whether the zera is yorek kechetz or not. Remember that in order for a woman to become impregnated, right, to conceive, the semen has to shoot out like a chetz, like an arrow. Because she feels it. She feels it inside of her body. In her Butula, she's 10 years married. Yeah. One second. But he does not know. And he cannot know whether it's yorek kechetz or not. She does know. So Amar Ihu, now if he says Ezil insiv iteta, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get married to someone else. Vivdok nafshai, and then I'm gonna check whether bemet I'm misugal to have children or not. So Amar Rabbi Yami says Rabbi Yami, Af zo, also in this case, Yotzi v'itin ketubah. He has to divorce her and he gives her the ketubah. Shani omer, but I'm gonna say Kol say Ishal ishto, Yotzi v'itin ketubah. Anybody that gets married to another woman on his wife, that means basically he wants to get married to another wife as well. You want to bechavod, but you have to divorce her is to give her the ketubah. Rava says, no, se adam kama nashim lishto. No, says Rava, get married to a few women. What's the problem? Take another one, and another one, and another one. But you have to have parnasah for all. Because you can't get married to a woman and then leave her hungry. But you could get married to another woman and you could give her the parnasah. Okay? 1 second. Says the Gemara, right? Samech Yevamot Daf 65b. Hu amar, imagine right now the husband comes and he says, apalt bego eser. You had a hapala within the 10 years, and therefore I'm not obligated to divorce you. Vehi amra, and she says, Lopi, what are you talking about? I didn't have an hapala. I didn't have a miscarriage. Yeah? So Amar Biyami says Biyami, af bezo hine, she's believed. Meaning if he comes and he says, I don't have to divorce her, why she had a hapala? She had a miscarriage. If you remember, you start again the 10 years, right, from the miscarriage. So he comes and he says, right, and she says, no, she's believed. Af bezo hine. The imi ita de pila bezef meant she had a pala, nafsha ba karta lo mechaska. So then she would never come and she would never hide it, because then she's saying that she's an akara. She doesn't want to say that she's an akara, because who would get married to her the second time around? So therefore she would never hide it. So it doesn't make sense for her to hide that she had a hapala. Doesn't make sense. However, though, what happens now if she did have hapala, but not once, again, and a third time? So then she has a chazakah that she has nefalim from this husband, and she's having miscarriages from this husband, and therefore he's obligated to divorce her. Because beforehand, maybe it could be like the one-off, that's one thing. But once she has a chazakah that it's 3 times, and remember here it's chazakah 3 times, so for kaddish, that's it. He comes, no, because of her, and therefore he comes and he's obligated to divorce her. Okay, because again, the 3 times is coming because of him. What happens if he says that she came and she had 2 apalot, right? And she comes and she says it was 3 apalot. Amar Yisrael ben Elazar, uvda ben Rasha. This case actually happened. Ve'amru, and they said himem, she's believed. If it was that she didn't do the 3rd time, nafsha ben inflim, she doesn't want to come and she doesn't want to be mishaker with the vad, because then she has a chazakah that she always has nefalim. So if she's actually saying 3, we always believe her. So basically, the maskana, what is coming out until the Mishnah is that we're always believing her to do with anything to do with beno levena, whether it's to do with hizera, whether it's to do with the hapalot, whether it's to do with how many times he pila, no he pila, if bichlal pila, all these things we're believing her and not him. Says the Mishnah in Samech Yevamot Daf. Okay, please let's put on our concentration caps. Yeah, haish metzuve al piriya verivya, aval lo aisha. The husband, a man, is obligated on piriya verivya, but not a woman. Says Rabbi Yochanan ben Ruka, Rabbi Yochanan ben Ruka says, al shnehem women. What are you talking about? On both of them, as it's stated, it says on both of them. So therefore, just like the husband, a man is obligated, so too a woman is obligated on piriya verivya. Says the Gemara, how do we know these words? Amar says Amar, the pasuk says, fill out the land and conquer it. Right? Who's conquering conquest? Who's that? So he says, men go out to war, not women. You understand? Women might go out to war to disturb or to, you understand, like meaning that some way they're not concentrating and to do that, yes. But the women don't go out to war, right? So he says, as says the Gemara, Adra, but the opposite. The chivshua tarte mashma. The chivshua is mashma 2 things. First of all, it's Lashon Rabim, that it's 2 things. Lichvosh et haaretz, gam haish v'gam haisha. So how do you say, why is it only the man? So Amar Rav Nachman, but Yitzchak says in Nachman Yitzchak, even though it's written v'chivshua, which is like in plural, which means also the man, also the women, but it's written singular. V'chovshaketi. It's written without the vav. Okay, it's written without a vav. It's v'chivshua. That's how we read with the nekudot, like a melupum, but without the vav. So he says, Rav Yosef. So therefore, it's only the man and not the woman. Rav Yosef said, no. There's another pasuk. The pasuk says by Yaakov Avinu. It says Ani el Shaddai pere urve. There it says in singular. It doesn't say pere urvu. It says pere urve. Velo kama pere urvu. So the fact that it says pere urve and it doesn't say pere urvu, it's only the man and not the women, because again it's only singular. Wow. Right? I remember this. I just spoke to someone about this. Yeah? Just like there's a mitzvah to say something that people will listen. Yeah. Meaning you want to come and you want to give a tochacha. and there's a mitzvah to say it if people will listen. So too, there's a mitzvah to not say something that will not be listened. Yeah, sometimes you want to come and you want to tell somebody something, but you already know they're not going to listen. Why? They're already biased. They have some, personal interest. You know how it is. When it's personal interest, there's nothing what to talk about. So therefore, What? So you asked a beautiful question, and we answered this in Kinya Masechta probably 20 times already. Whenever we bring down a rabbi that he says something, we many times bring down the same thing that he says. So therefore, we just brought down Rabbi Ilah in the name of Rabbi Shimon to do with the pasuk Umilo v'chiv shua. Then we started arguing: is a chiv shua yes, chiv shua no? And by the way, now that we brought down Rabbi Ilah in the name of Rabbi Shimon, now we're bringing something else which is connected. It's also in Yana Dioma because I just mentioned it yesterday to someone. So it was like mamash, it's all connected. So all of a sudden, it had to do with one after another, right? And by the way, this is 100% true because the Torah knows, the Gemara already knows the mindset of human beings. And therefore, it's a mitzvah. Don't even say it. So it's a chaval al roch. It's chaval even to mention it, but you already know it's not gonna help. You understand? Rabbi Abba comes and he even obligates. He even adds onto it. He says it's a chovah. Not only is it a mitzvah not to say the tochacha, it's a chovah not to say the tochacha. Why is it a chovah? Shnemar al tochach letz. The guy's a letz, right? Why? Penny snaika. Well, you're gonna come. You're gonna give him rebuke. You already know you're gonna tell him don't do this. You already know he's not going to be mekabel et zeh. So therefore, you have to give tochacha to a chacham. By the way, you should know, that's how you know if a person's a chacham or not. If a person likes rebuke, if he likes constructive criticism, it means he's a chacham. Why? Opposite. I want to become better. Teach me. Give me. It could be that I'm blind. Maybe I'm not seeing properly. You understand? So, okay, so give me what's going on. So therefore, it comes the Gemara and saying, however, though, what are you going to tell him? He's just giving me tzutz alecha. So chaval al-azman, don't even bother coming and telling him anything. Okay? That's what the Gemara says. Okay? ואמר רבי הילה משום רבי אלעזר ושמעון, says רבי אלעזר ושמעון, מותר לו לאדם לשנות בדבר השלום. It's מותר לשנות בדבר השלום, שנאמר וזה זה לפסוק, אביך ציווה, your father commanded before his death to say, כה תאמרו ליוסף, ענה שנא. Okay, so it comes, he says, שנא פשע וחטא וכו' וכו'. So now, right, it says over here, this is after the death of Yaakov Avinu. So the question is, how do you say, you're allowed to lie? So here they actually say that Ruch actually answers that it's not actually, and that's why, by the way, I actually heard this from a rabbi also, that it doesn't say mutar l'shaker. It says mutar l'shanot. L'shanot means to change, meaning it's not something that you're lying. You're not lying. You're changing. So here he actually says it. Aruch Laner says it also as well. And he says why? Because when it says Avicha Tziva, it was that the kavanah was al divret tzava'ah. Because before his death, he came and he said, Vaychal Yaakov letzavot benav kotor min Yosef. So he wasn't actually speaking about this, but he said something which could understand, meaning that it could be understood in that way. So it's not much. And I actually had this because there was a whole question. Next. So says the Gemara, it says Avicha Tziva kotor min Yosef. So now, Rav Tzion just said, one second, maybe that Shalom Bait is different. 1 second. Rabbi Natan says it's a mitzvah leshanot. It doesn't say mutar leshanot, because he said before mutar leshanot. No mutar, mitzvah leshanot. Shenemar, vayomer Shemuel, echel, how am I going to go? Shema Shaul varaguni. Again, this is to do with Shalom, which means that Shaul HaMelech, Shemuel HaNavi, is telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how am I going to go to anoint David HaMelech? If Shaul HaMelech is going to come and hear that I'm going to anoint David, he's going to kill me. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he said, no, just go and you're going to say that you're going to bring sacrifices, whatever it is, and then you anoint David HaMelech. But now comes the Gemara, and this is for you, Rav Tzion, that is saying, Shalom Bait is the exact same thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu also was Mishaneh Biglal LaShalom. So she comes and she says that my master is old. And at the end it says, Vani Zakanti, I am old. So in order that Abraham Avinu should not be paga from what Sarah said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Mishaneh. So now 1 second. Here we're talking about Shalom Bait. And it's the exact same thing. It's all in the same Gemara. It's not that for here it's mutar, then it's a mitzvah, then Shalom Bait mutar l'shaker. And again, HaKadosh Baruch Hu shinabo. It's always using the terminology of l'shanot, not l'shaker. It's a little bit different. You have to be careful with that. Okay? Anyway, there's a lot of, in the footnote here, you've got a footnote which is almost a page long. But again, right, we have to continue. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka Omer. Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka comes and he says, whether it's men or women, everybody's obligated in Pidya Vivya. Says the Gemara, when we say Rabbi Yochanan ben Levi, says Rabbi Yochanan ben Levi. Chadama, one of them says Halacha is like Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka, and one of them says Halacha is not like Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka. Tistayem, why don't we just come and bring a proof that what Rabbi Yochanan who damar shen halacha, that Rabbi Yochanan is the one that's saying the halacha is not like Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka. Tiyativ Rabbi Yavhu v'kama mishvei Rabbi Yochanan is the one Rabbi Yavhu was sitting, and he said in the name of Yochanan halacha, that the halacha was like Rabbi Yochanan ben Roka. Ta'adrinu Rabbi Yami v'Rabbi Yasi lapayu, and then they went and they turned their backs on him. What do you mean that they turned their backs on him? That Rabbi Yochanan never said such a thing. Which means that they said that it wasn't him that said such a thing. Why? Because they went and they said something in the name of the rabbi, and they turned around. Why did they turn around? They didn't want to look at his face because that was sheket. And some people say, right? It was Rabbi Bar Abba that said it. And they turned their faces around, showing that they didn't agree with that it was incorrect. Amar Papa says, I understand if it was Rabbi Yavhu, that he was the one that came and he said, this psak, Mishum Kavod Be'Kesar, but he said it because of the Kavod of the Kavod Gadol, which means he was in the Bet Kesar. So Lo Amru Lev Lo Midi, and therefore they wouldn't say anything. Which means since he was so high appointed in the government, nobody was able to tell him anything because of political reasons. So therefore they had to keep their mouths quiet because that's it. But according to the Mandamar, there was Bar Abba Amra. So lamely, why didn't they just say that? Lo Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Rabbi Yochanan didn't say that. Meaning, if you're going to tell me that, it depends who was. Certain rabbis, you could come, you could tell them something. Other rabbis, you have to take the bite. Why? You can't say anything. They have, political power, right? And therefore you can't. So what's a maskana? So Tashema Adam there was a case that came in front of the Bet Knesset of Kesari with a woman that she wanted Girushin from her husband, but she didn't have children. Now remember, she's asking for the divorce now because she didn't have children. So Rabbi Yochanan said, divorce her, you have to give her the ketubah. Now 1 second. If you're going to tell me that she's not obligated in Pidya Vivya, ketubah mayavita. So what's a ketubah then? At the end of the day, why is he obligated to give the ketubah? Right? She was the one that she didn't want. In a sense, so she's the one that doesn't want. What's going on over here? So for obviously you have to say that she is commanded on Pidya Vivya, and therefore since she's commanded, she could demand her ketubah. So says the Gemara, no. Dilma beba'a mechamat ta'ana. Maybe she's coming with another ta'ana that she should get the ketubah. Why? There's a story of a woman that she came in front of Rabbi Yami. And she said, Havli ketubah, give me the ketubah. Amarla, he says, Zil, lo mipakta. He said, what are you talking about? You don't get a ketubah. You're not obligated in Pidya Vivya, which means like this. You will lose your ketubah if you want to get divorced. Because if you're the one that's asking if it's him or the bet team that are initiating it, so therefore, listen, the man's obligated in Pidya Vivya, so therefore he has to give the ketubah. But the other way around, if she's the one that's demanding the divorce, you're not obligated in Pidya Vivya, so what are you doing? So Elmaleh, she said, what are you talking about? Misivu dila maitehave alach tehach itetu. Which means when she's going to be elderly, what's going to be on me? Which means who's going to help me when I'm going to be elderly? Meaning she's going to say she wants children in order to help her when she's older. She's going to be older. She wants a child to come, to help her, to walk her, to this, that. So Amar, so she says, no, if that's what you're going to say, for sure we're going to force you. By the way, this is very, very important because here you see a loophole of that she could demand it because of having children to serve her when she's older, and she would be believed, meaning she would come and you would mamash do that. So that's why he says, Ki hava dai kafina. For sure we're going to actually come and we're going to force them. How he there was a woman that came in front of Nachman. Amalai, he told her, Lo mipak, you're not obligated in Pidya Vivya. Amralei, she says, Lo baya achitita chutra liyada umara lekfura. Says what? She doesn't want a makel liyada, right? Which is like a staff beside her. And mi'adar for kfura, she wants to be buried by someone. She wants to be buried by her children. She wants a staff. Somebody come and somebody could take her. Amar, you're right. We're going to let her go.
Right.
Whenever we come, right? No, that's what he's saying. Yehuda v'Chizkiah teomim hayu. It's never the same thing when they're paid in the sexual tribe, right? Yehuda and Chizkiah, they were twins. Echad nigmerat surato l'sof tisha. One of them finished after 9 months of the pregnancy. Echad nigmerat surato l'chlat shiva. One of them was at the beginning of 7. Yehudit, right? Devitu d'Rabchia. Yehudit, the mother, right? That was the wife of Rabchia. Okay, Havalea tsar leida. She had tsar leida. Okay. And therefore, she didn't want to have any more children. So Shanai Mana, she changed her clothing in order that they don't recognize her. And she came in front of Rabchia. So imagine, right? She's coming. This is the wife of Rabchia. She's changing her clothing and she's going in front of her husband as a bedin. Right? She's coming. Think about that, and he's not recognizing her. Right? This is something incredible. And she says, "Are women obligated in Pidya Vivya?" Amala, he says, "No, Azla ishti asama dakrata. So what did she do? She went and she drank a cup. Kosheli karim. Kosheli karim is brought down in the Torah, by the way. Right? What was the kosheli karim? Right? There was such a thing that the Torah, the Ibn Ezra brings it down. A lot of people bring down Rashiv, and the minhag was that many times people would take two wives. One wife, they would give her the kosheli karim, and never she would be akara, she would be sterile, and know that she was always beautiful. Another wife was for children. Right? Because remember, the beauty of the woman goes away when she has children. So what happens? So what happened was she went and she drank this. She drank this potion.
One.
She had two children. Tell me.
Yehuda
and Chizkiah. She had two children. Yehuda and Chizkiah. Az laishti asama deakra lesof igal yaminta. At the end, it was known to Rav Chia what happened. Amar la, he says, iku yalata lichada kreis achrite. Right? What's going on? If Chaval, if you wouldn't have had another two children, right? What does that mean? Chaval, you couldn't come and you couldn't have had another two children. Damar more, Yehuda and Chizkiah were brothers. Tell me, Pazi v'Tavi achvata. Right? These were achayot teomot. Okay, Samech Vav Amud Aleph. We're finishing the perek. 66a. So it says these were teomot. So therefore, since Yudit was regular to have teomim, Rav Chia went and he said that these are like a melok keres, which means she would have had continue having twins. Ve'lo mipata, says the Gemara, watch. Not about getting Peter Rivia. There was a woman that she's half a slave, a maidservant, and half free. They forced her master in order to make her free, in order that she could have children. He said, no. Since she was that way, she was a shivcha, so therefore, but she was also half free, so nobody could get married to her. She was a shivcha, so a regular person got married to her. So therefore, she was just going around sleeping with men. So because of that, they forced her master to free her in order that she could get married to one man and not do exactly. Have a wonderful day.